EA Interviews, episode 146.
Inspiration, transformation, success stories, and the imperfect action round. 7 days a week. Join Mario Ficini for today's Expert Authority Effect interview.
I'm going to talk to you about your mind. It is so important for business, but what are you doing to take care of it? Are you doing the right things with your customers? You probably are. Are you over-delivering? You probably are. You know, you have their best heart. You have their best interest at heart. But what are you doing for yourself? The mind is a great thing. And I want to ask you, are you taking care of yourself? Is business going good, but home life not going well? Are you stressed at work? Do you feel like you could be making more money? Or maybe you are, you just don't have the time you want? I am super excited to have Malorie Nicole, mindset expert, on the show today and host of Abundantly Clear podcast, because she's going to be diving into how you can not only have a more successful business, but more successful life. We're going to bring her up right after we thank the sponsor. How would you like to grow your wealth easier than you think with the change you probably don't notice anyhow automatically? That's why I started the Compounding Interest Snowball Investing with Acorns and advise you do too. Get started simply and easily today at eainterviews.com/acorns. Here she is, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Malorie Nicole. Malorie, how are you doing today?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me on the show.
I'm so grateful to have you here, because so many people, I know they have good businesses, but what are they giving up? What are they doing to have that? I know some people that are doing it the right way, but I feel like there's a lot of people out there that want more from life and business, and I know you can help. So how do you help them?
Yes, that's such a great observation and great question to start. So what I really do with people is I help them go into understanding their subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind is something that really deciphers about 95% of our daily actions, behaviors, habits, and decision making. Yet when we really think about it, most people don't know what's really going on in that part of our brain. And our subconscious mind is basically a collective filing cabinet of all of the beliefs that we have about ourselves and about the world and the lens that we're looking at life through. And really, by addressing that area of the brain and addressing that area of somebody's life, we start to see a lot of changes and shifts in their, in their home life and their work and their business, if they're a business owner, by just addressing that area of themselves.
What made you want to get into it? Because there's a lot of things you can do with psychology and subconscious and helping people for that matter. What drew you to this niche specifically?
In 2014, I got very sick and I had lots of different symptoms that were bothering my system. I had rashes and headaches and fevers, and I lost a lot of weight, and I had a lot of just health symptoms that didn't seem to be going away. And I was in and out of the doctor trying to figure out what was wrong. And that really led me on a path of health and wellness that I had not yet been on in my life. And through some time, I did I made some changes in my diet and did some things that I needed to do to heal and get better. But that really led me to the world of coaching. And from health coaching, this deeper exploration of mindset and how we think and how we process information and how we create habits and maintain habits, my world started to open up in that. Shortly after I started down the health coaching journey, I got into entrepreneurship. Prior to entrepreneurship, I worked for an engineering firm. But once getting into entrepreneurship, I realized that a lot of business owners kept seeing these same similar patterns and finding themselves stuck. And it wasn't really a business problem that was the issue. It was really some belief work and some mindset stuff that was creating the blocks. And it all kind of organically just continued from there.
It sounds like you're really enjoying it. I mean, to change from engineering to health coaching, is it safe to say you're pretty passionate?
Yeah, and the health coaching didn't last very long. I am very passionate about health and wellness, But I only did that for like less than 6 months before I had business owners that were basically asking for help along the mindset component and wanting more deeper work there. And as you know, when you're in business, sometimes opportunities just show up and you really have to tune in and ask, do I need to take this and do I need to make this pivot? And so I did. I just trusted that it was the right thing that I was supposed to be doing. And I kept showing up. And here we are a few years later and I'm still at it. So it's great.
So you really, what I'm hearing is you went through this from your own journey and realized there was even more that you could give. Do you ever miss the engineering, or are you completely sold out to helping people reprogram their subconscious?
I don't miss the engineering, but I will say that I wasn't unhappy in my job, because I think that's a very traditional entrepreneur story of being miserable in their career and just needing an escape. For me, it wasn't really that. It was actually very hard for me to leave because I really loved my team. I really loved the work. I really loved everything that we were doing. But there was something else that was calling me, and maybe logically I couldn't see exactly how all this was going to play out. And on paper, it didn't all make sense. And, when you're set in your engineering job and you just get these intuitive hits to pay thousands of dollars to get a health coaching certification, logically that doesn't really pan out. Like, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but I did it anyways. And it was a series of those kind of draws and decisions that led me to where I am now, and I couldn't be happier with it.
So what do you really do with people that come to you as far as your prospects that turn into clients? What is a common scenario, I should say? You don't need to give a specific example, but what is a common scenario that you see recurring that you really help people with?
Yeah, there's two groups of people that I find that I continue to keep helping, and my message and my own marketing continues to attract. One of those groups of people is people that are feeling really stuck, whether they have built really successful businesses and they just are not fulfilled and things don't seem to be happening the way that they thought it was going to, or rather they're not feeling the way they thought they were going to feel, or they want to make a pivot and they feel stuck and they don't know how to do that, or they don't know why they feel so blocked there. So there is a certain type of person that I help that feels very stuck. They've spent lots of money on marketing and different things before, but they've never dove really deep into the mindset work. And then the other group of people that I tend to attract is also somebody that just wants to go deeper and wants to continue to invest in themselves and do deeper level mindset work and dive in a little bit more than maybe they have before. So I find that I don't exactly help one person with one particular problem, which I know in marketing, every marketer's like, well, that doesn't make sense. You're holding yourself back. But those are the two types of people that I really help in the two groups. And it's continued to be very profitable and grown. And I think there's a lot more of those people than we realize, on paper. People love to grow.
I would have to agree, because the fact that you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to do more. So you're inherently, I don't want to say biased, but you're inherently programmed to be ambitious, in my experience. But there's always you get to that next level, then there's a plateau. You get to that next level, and you're always striving for more. And I remember this quote or phrase or whatever, and it says, if you don't heal the cut, you'll bleed. If you don't heal the wound, you'll cut on the If you don't heal the wound, you'll bleed on the people who didn't cut you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that hit me like a ton of bricks, because, there was stuff I had to overcome personally, but also I saw it in so many of my clients and prospects, and it was like, you're asking the wrong questions. It's not a Facebook or LinkedIn or this or that. It's, what about that thing you never addressed 10, 15, 20 years ago? How do you go about that tactfully so you can give them the transformation they need, but not disrupt them or offend them or just agitate them and make them worse?
Yeah, so certainly there's a level of trust that's required, right? Because without vulnerability and trust, nobody could really have an effective experience in this type of work. And I found too that I think a lot of coaches struggle with that fear of if I go there, I'm going to make it worse. But you can't make somebody worse, because they're not worse already, right? They are who they are, and they might be struggling with somebody. but you or I can't make somebody worse. We might ignite something and bring up an uncomfortable emotion, but underneath that uncomfortable emotion is really where the root of stuff lies. And when we can pull the root out, it will stop showing up like it is in a continuous cycle and pattern every day that might be blocking someone. So when it comes to my marketing, I speak to people about the things that I know they're aware that they're struggling with. So most people that have, let's say, maybe childhood beliefs that haven't been addressed, they're not aware of that right now. And that's okay. Their job isn't to be aware of that right now in their journey. But maybe they're aware that they have income caps that they keep hitting and they do not know why. Or maybe they're aware that they feel energetically drained, like their clients are taking over their life and they just can't seem to step away. So there's no boundaries, right? So really being able to look at what is the present day problem that's going on. And then from that, the conversation starts and there's a level of trust that's built. And it's pretty quick that when I help people see and connect their own dots, they go, oh, this makes sense. Yeah, I want to work on this. I'm ready to address this stuff.
Those are two powerful things you shared there, and I want to get the real expert authority insights and unpack that a little bit. When you're talking about there's an income cap, because there's so many people in business, I mean, business and life in general, you don't need a business to go, I want to make more money. Who wouldn't, Yeah. But at the same point, how do you get past those mental blocks or those income caps? And I'm also going to ask you the second one you mentioned, because these are things that affect everyone. Let's start with the income cap. How do you address that?
So the income cap, sometimes it is a marketing thing. And I'll just be transparent here. I'm not somebody that believes that mindset work is the only thing that a business owner needs to work on and that this is the solution to all of the problems that ever existed rather. Sometimes there is a marketing thing that's going on or a structural thing that needs to change. And that definitely has its own bag of issues that need to be addressed. When it's a mindset thing, we really have to look at what beliefs are connected to the identity that somebody has about who they are being in their business and the person that is generating the money that they're making right now. So 6-figure you is different than $0 you if you haven't made your first sale. And it's also different than 7-figure you. You have an inherent identity around who you are. And all of that comes from your set of belief systems that you have created through childhood and in early adulthood and through your life experiences. So when we don't look at what the real framework that you are operating from every single day, when we don't look at that, there are going to be things like income caps. There are going to be things like recurring patterns of like people being scared to look at their finances and feeling out of control of looking at their money. All of that stuff is very real and people deal and struggle with it every single day. Not a lot of people like to talk about it because it's easier to talk about the success and the wins and the good things that are going on. But this stuff isn't as scary as it seems. When we address it, we have more power and control over our lives versus continuously feeling like we have to figure it out, because you feel that energy a lot of times from entrepreneurs of just this angst and anxious feeling of, always feeling like it's going to break. That's all belief stuff.
What is something that someone can do? Let me rephrase it. Is there anything someone can do like sooner than later, like right now, to start the process on it? I know they can't do a deep dive on their own, but what are some indicators that
where to start? Yeah, absolutely. And there are things that you can do right now to really look at your life and see if this stuff is something that you might not be realizing that's a problem or, could benefit you to create further transformation and further expansion in your life and business, because that's what's on the other side of all this stuff, right? It doesn't all have to be like negative, because it's not really. The other side of all of this is expansion, which is the beautiful part. And the first place to start and to look at is to really dive in and address, what am I avoiding? what have I gotten really good at avoiding? You could be avoiding your finances. You could be avoiding marketing yourself. You could be avoiding getting on stage. You could be avoiding a conversation of conflict, maybe that you don't want to have, and really diving into what are the things I'm avoiding. And then asking yourself the next question, which is what emotion is tied to the thing that I'm avoiding? Is it fear? Is it scarcity? Is it shame? Is it guilt? What is the emotion? And then asking yourself, what is the story I've created around this? So that you can really look at a deeper, you can go through and look deeper within yourself. How am I really looking at this? Now, the other side of avoiding, and as entrepreneurs, I think we all can understand this, is what am I gripping really tightly? You know, am I looking at my numbers every 5 minutes? Am I looking at my Facebook stats 100 times a day? Am I looking at my podcast downloads, you know, 1,000,000 times an hour? What are we overcompensating on that maybe we're not being honest with ourselves about? And what's the emotion that's connected to that? You know, what do I feel when I go to look at my podcast downloads 18 times a day? Am I excited, or am I creating an expectation around what I want to be seeing?
That is powerful. That is really powerful. Do you ever have an issue with people opening up about it? Like, I know there's the trust when you get going, but initially, are some people more willing to open up, or is there some people that are more reserved and you have to get them to open up?
So there's definitely a process that I go through, because I've got 4 different certifications at this point, and there is an easy way to have people be honest with themselves and be honest with you so that you guys can do effective work together. And then there's also not an easy way. You know, really just you and I don't know each other that well. If I was to just jump in there and start, you know, forcefully asking you questions and putting judgment around it, you're not going to respond very well to that. So how you show up, how any coach shows up to the conversation is super, super important. And as far as a client goes, I don't want to say I'm super selective, but I have said to people, you know, this might not be a good fit. Maybe, you know, check out this handful of things. I never want to leave somebody without anything, any resources at all. And the only reason I would believe that somebody wasn't a good fit is because they're so blocked that they're just not ready to face some of their own stuff. And is that a real thing? Do people sit in that place? Yeah, they do. Most of the time they don't. Because if they're reaching out and asking for help, they actually want to do the work and they actually want to dig a little bit deeper and shift and change some things. So I don't get a whole lot of that. I think that person would likely never reach out to me in the first place, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. I totally get what you mean. And, you know, I've helped people with, you know, things when we're working on, you know, their books or videos. And almost everyone always opens up, and it's like, you know, you can just care and listen. You know, I'm sure I don't go as deep as you do, but at the same point, you can tell when someone's trying to put up a wall versus, no, you know, tell me what do I need to do. And they're at that place where I'm ready for the change and I want it. I just don't know the steps. And that could really be true for anything. I mean, if you want to lose weight or improve your marketing or start a business, you know, are you serious or committed?
Absolutely.
There's a difference
mindset,
there.
There is. And mindset is one of those things it's good to relate to as far as exercise, because of course the question is, well, how do you do this? And wouldn't it be nice to just listen to a podcast and then it all be done and our mindset stuff would be addressed? But, you know, the reality is we can't watch somebody doing sit-ups and expect that we are going to experience 6-pack abs from watching somebody every day do sit-ups. We actually do have to integrate ourselves into the work. And there's different options for people on this. I'm not saying this is a one trail thing, that there's one solution for everybody, but your willingness to dedicate yourself to your own growth, you know, that's really where I see the quickest and fastest growing businesses is usually because the person that's running it is doing their personal work. I call it the work. They're doing their work too. And because of that, they're running the business in a really efficient and effective way because their best self is showing up to their team, showing up to their clients, showing up to their personal relationships, because that's super important as entrepreneurs that you have healthy personal relationships in your business as well. So the stuff isn't like bleeding over one to the other. All of this stuff is really, really important.
Well, I'm thankful that you're diving deeper into it because I think a lot of people need this and some people don't even realize it. So even if it gets them one step closer, I think that's a progress. And if you could you touch on the second common thing that you help people with?
Yeah. So meaning just somebody that wants to grow more?
Yes.
Yes. So yeah, that's happened. I'd say the primary group of people that I do help is the first. But I have a lot of people that have been with me for like over a year at this point. That's not uncommon. And it's not because they're still stuck. I can tell you right now, looking at their numbers and their growth and where their business is, it's not because they're still stuck. It's because they see how effective doing their own work is on the rest of their business. So people continue to say, yes, I want to keep growing. I want to keep growing. And then I've also had people that I've gotten on the phone with that are just like, hey, I saw some posts that you wrote and it really resonated and I feel like you could help me. And I don't really know what it is that I feel like you could help me with, but I want to explore and figure it out. And I'm like, all right, great. And, usually within 45 minutes, I'm able to dial in some things and go, oh, okay, yeah, well, these 3 areas, they might not be completely paralyzing you right now, but if we worked on them, you're going to see a change and you're going to see a result in this. And I just try and keep it super easy.
Well, it seems like you have a nice style and people are responding to it. So for anyone that's on the fence of going, well, I don't want to do any of this. I just want to, put out more ads, even though I'm a prick to everyone and I don't need this. What would you say are the benefits that are, we've been talking about them and a lot of them are obvious in my opinion, but maybe not obvious to others. What would you say are the clear, tangible benefits of doing this type of work you've seen in your clients at the finish line of the results?
Great question. I don't promise an ROI per se in money terms because I have some clients making $10K a month. I have others making $100,000 a month. So to start playing with the marketing in terms of like, you're going to get this ROI, that's never felt congruent to me because of the gap in my clients' finances is just very different. But I've seen financial results in almost every single person I've worked with. And I truly believe that the more we grow, because of the way we show up to our business and the way we show up to sales and the way we show up to clients and the way we nurture and take care of people and lead, it changes everything. I have had clients just well exceed beyond what they thought their initial goals were. And in asking them, what was it? Of course, it takes action. Mindset work is not just sitting on the couch, getting on a call once a week and doing your mindset work and expecting your business to, grow itself. But
you're telling me that's not the secret?
Right. I know there's a lot going on there, but in doing your own work and consistently showing up and staying in alignment and maybe preventing you from making mistakes that you could be making otherwise and saying no to things that don't actually align and that aren't using your unique genius and really staying in a path that works for you instead of against you, because so many business owners feel like their business is working against them when it's not. You are your business, you're running it. So taking ownership of that is like step one. You really can create so much change. I've had clients that have had health results that I didn't even realize were happening. I had a client lose 100 pounds and sent me a message of a before and after photo a year later, 100 pounds. And we hardly even talked about health, but his commitment to himself changed the way he showed up to his relationship with health, exercise, food, snacking, all that kind of stuff. It just started to go away. I've had clients that have repaired their relationships with their family members that they just thought were doomed. And, you know, I've literally had people that have said, my family's just really not for me. And we are who we are, and it's not going to work out. And I have distanced myself from them. I've had them come back a couple months later saying everything's renewed and everything's fine. So I really believe this stuff plays into every area of our life. And although I do work with entrepreneurs because I love business, I think it's super fascinating and super fun, and being able to work with people that literally do not have any cap on their income. Nobody gets to decide your income other than you. You know, that's super fun, but it does affect every area of your life. It's not just business that it affects.
That's super exciting, because I know there's no one listening that's going, well, I don't want to make more money. I want to be financially worse next year than I am this year.
Right.
And when you're talking, what else I'm hearing is when you're saying some of my clients make 10 grand a month and others make 100 grand a month. Those are two different business sizes, people, and everything. And what's impressive is you're still able to help them. You haven't pigeonholed yourself as just one or the other. You really are making these transformations happen for anyone who comes to you.
Well, and on paper, you know just as well as I do, on paper, marketing wise, like there's an opportunity for me to say, no, I help this person in this avenue. But what's important to all of us is to stay aligned with what we want to be doing. And I love, I think it's super fun to work with people making massive amounts of money. But I also really love helping people that are still trying to figure things out, and they're still trying to get going, and they're trying to create wealth for their families. I love all of it. So rather than pigeonhole myself into one category, I had just decided about a year and a half ago, no, I'm just going to keep speaking about what all of these people have in common. And that is that they want to take ownership of themselves. They want to take responsibility of everything in their life and how they show up. They want to be the best version of them. And maybe they don't know effectively how to do all of that right now because there's some other stuff that's getting in the way. And that's really what's important to me. Is it's not so much how much money are you making. It's, are you a fit for the type of thing that I help people with? And the type of thing that I help people with is not looking at your Facebook ad metrics and saying, oh, you need to change this or that. It's really doing the self-work.
I love that that's where your heart's at. Because there's a fair amount of people who shy away from one or only do this, that, the other. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I've advised some of my clients to do that. Mm-hmm. But I always look, you can tell where someone's heart's at.
Yeah.
Are you open to an idea?
Well, of course. Are you going to have me coach you on your show?
I had that happen with someone before. That wasn't it. I would be open to it. But when you were talking about because you're talking about a $90,000 a month gap.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually more, if I really,
do you want to know how you can bridge that so you can speak about it without offending anyone and still make it specific?
Yeah.
Ratios. If they increase from 10 grand to 13, that's 30%. Conversely, 100 grand to 130. You could figure out all your clients and you say, well, I don't promise anyone, but consistently the last, 85% of my clients have increased 25 to 35% in this amount of time.
Fantastic. That's a fantastic approach. I've never thought about that. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome. You have the heart, and I know you're helping people, but I know that's the other thing is some people have an issue with marketing because it's not congruent, and you kind of said it, but I was like, that's a huge gap. However,
it's an absolutely huge gap.
And now you're going, no, it's not 90, it's actually 146,000 if I'm thinking of, what's the biggest gap? Come on.
It really, it's more like $500,000 a month. Yeah, so it's more like 5,000 to $500,000.
Percentages still will work.
Yeah,
and you're not revealing any specifics.
Yeah,
it's like a secret decoder ring from the Cracker Jack box.
That's the thing. Like, how are you with me? Because I try to just obviously integrity is important to me, and I try to stay in alignment with
me
that.
Too.
So for me, if I'm working with someone that's already making $200,000 a month, and I say they got a 500. I can't even do numbers in my head right now, but whatever ROI, am I really being honest when I look at what their numbers were before, before they came to me? But I like the ratio approach because you're looking at the before and after versus looking at the price of the program and equating that into the ratios of an already existing business.
And I will bet to say the people with the lower income will make a bigger jump. However, if you want to talk dollars, you can, but I would also subsect it even further and group all the people in, let's say, 50 grand a month and below versus 50 grand a month to 100 and 100 and above. And now you could get really specific and go, now when you're talking to someone in each of the categories, you can say, here's what I've been able to do from people in similar situations as you.
That's great. See, you know what's funny? I'm sitting here going, oh God, is he going to ask me to coach him on his show? And here you are coaching me on your show about marketing. So I love it.
It was just an idea, and I'm open to it. I did have someone, he was talking about the exercise.
Oh, no, I don't want to coach you on your show.
I wasn't going to ask that though.
I know you weren't.
But he was like, are you open to go through an exercise? I'm like, hell yeah.
Right?
But that's the power of it. When I tell people in 30 minutes to 45, they're like, yeah, right. And then they get off the phone call. They're like, what? And you said it too, within 45 minutes. And it was just so nonchalant, but I caught it and I knew what you were talking about.
It doesn't take long. And it's
the willingness, isn't it?
Yeah. And it also, here's the thing, like it's just like anything that you do. I have so many conversations with so many people. I see patterns. I know where the stuff comes from. It's not rocket science. It's repetitive patterns over and over and over again. And that's how simple this stuff is. And when we can dial it in to simply put, oh, well, XYZ is happening. And that's why you're experiencing, these three things, we can address XYZ. And then those three things go away, or they shift, or they transform. It's all science. It really is. It's all science.
I love that. This is fascinating to me. So thank you again for sharing it. I'm going to ask you, what's your biggest success story? I know you were sharing a lot of benefits and a good sampling of people you've been able to help. And you don't need to say the name or specifics, but who's the biggest success story that went from start to finish?
Yeah, I actually got on the call with her today, so it's relative. She just signed on for another year, and last year, she had seen success in her business before. She had a few 10K months, and she was she calls it her self-sabotage period. She was a little bit all over the place on changing her model up, changing her offer up. She just wasn't aligned with what she wanted to be doing. And when she came to me, she had collected $500 that month. But she had seen success before that. So this was a period of like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? And what really needs to change? And about, I want to say 7 months after we started working together, and this went from a very intensive, she was in a framework that I don't offer anymore, but it was a very intensive period. And then we went monthly for the rest of the year. And within 7 months, she had collected almost $100,000 in one launch. But this was also leading up to multiple five-figure months that she had already had outside of the launch with her one-on-one. And she just told me her goals for the year 2020 today, and she's going for $1 million. And this month, last year, she made $500. And when she said $1 million today, I was like, yeah, you will. There was no doubt in my mind. She closed almost $50,000 in business in December. And her whole life has changed. And we talk, and I say all of the numbers in this, but I want to emphasize how she shows up. She's open. She's not afraid for feedback. She does the deep work. She addresses all of it. And we talk about her whole life. It's not just business, because how she shows up to her marriage, to her kids, to her family, all of those things play into how she shows up to business, and she's willing to address all of it. And she's a phenomenal client.
And I want to emphasize for the people that are focused on the numbers, she's willing to do the work on herself also.
She is.
And
she's very consistent in the action that she takes.
And that's a key too. And I know you threw in this was after a couple 5-figure months in a row because you didn't want to, and I appreciate the congruency. You didn't want to make it sound like she went from $500 a month to $100,000 overnight.
No, it was.
But even the 5-figure months in between, how many people would? I remember putting something out years ago on Facebook, and it was something to the effect of, "What would you do with an extra $5 or $10,000 a month?" Mm-hmm. And there was someone that was like, "Extra, I'd love to get the first."
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if they had a new business, didn't have a business, whatever the case was, but it was just like, we talk about things and it's like, it's all relative, Right. So whether she had 5-figure months in a row, I mean, that's not horrible if you've never
Right.
done it before. But also to go from where she was to bridge the gap and then skyrocket from there, good for her.
She, what I think is I'd like to share about her too, for anyone that's listening that's like, oh my God, I want that. I want that money. I want that. One of the things that we talked about today on our call is she's not connected to the money. And that's why I believe that she sees the results that she does. She said today on the phone, and I've seen her pattern with this before. And it's also the same thing that I've seen with myself in my income growth and how it's happened. She said it's not about making $1 million. If I hit it or if I don't, it doesn't matter. It's about showing up to what I'm capable of and maintaining that. And I truly believe that, I don't want to say the most successful people, but the most successful people that are also the most fulfilled in every area of their life feel that way about their growth.
That's a great expert authority insight, because one without the other is a scorecard.
Yeah. So, I mean, and I say that the way I perceive success does encompass all of those. But when we're using that word in online marketing and in business, we have a tendency to think just in monetary terms. So just wanted to make sure I was clear on what I meant by that.
No, you've been doing great, and I appreciate you for sharing this, because not a lot of people talk about it. I mean, I'm familiar with it because I've went through it myself, mm-hmm. and I'll say I scratch the surface with people. I mean, I know some things, but it's not what I do. I do a book publishing in 8 weeks. But inevitably, how you said, we talk about all areas of life. There hasn't been one client who doesn't start sharing throughout the process. I mean, you work with anyone for 8, 12, 16. Some of my clients are 1.5, 2 years. You're not like, okay, did you get the email? No, you're like, hey, how was the birthday? How's your husband? How's your wife? How are the kids? Right. They answer the phone, and I'm like, hey, how's it going? And for the last 14 weeks, and then all of a sudden they're like, I'm good. What do I need to do this week? Well, first off, nothing. You need to tell me what the problem is.
Right. And writing a book too, you're going into someone's, you've got to be vulnerable with yourself and with your coach if you're going to write a book that's going to really touch and reach the readers. So it's super important. Very much trust involved also. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And if someone's not in the right frame of mind, no, don't embed that in a chapter that's going to be around the next 80 years. No, stop it. Go eat some ice cream first. Or maybe don't. Just do anything else, but no.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, one of the calls, it was like 80% of the time I was just like, do you feel better yet? No. And then by the end, they're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to hang up now. Da, da, da. I'm like, okay, now go right. There you go.
It's amazing how quickly we can shift our energy states.
If you have help with it, though, or you're really, really practiced, because even I know you could do it as well as I could. And it's like sometimes I'm just going, yeah, I don't want to. And it's like, you can. Leave me alone. I want to have a fit for a little bit. It's not
sometimes
productive,
we
though.
Want to be stubborn. But a lot of times I think more often I see that people aren't as self-aware as they think they are. And I'm saying that because I also saw that at some point in my life, I thought I was very self-aware. Come to find out, there was a lot of stuff I was missing. But I think that in taking that journey through a different level of self-awareness, you give yourself an opportunity to grow into so much more expansion than you may even realize right now. So I really don't think this work could not benefit anybody. I really don't. Unless they were just super closed and just didn't want it.
Yeah, there are those people, unfortunately. For them, I pray. But for the people who are open, I'd encourage you. It's actually kind of fun and revealing. And you see, that's the thing. I'll also say we also beat ourselves up because I thought the same thing. And I'm not saying I'm super self-aware and I don't need help. I definitely do. But at every level, there's levels. You know, you look back even a year ago, like let me ask you, before you started your podcast, before you started coaching, before you started this, it's like I look back over the last decade going, who the heck was this? You did everything wrong compared to what I know now. You know, there's always that next level and it's all relative.
Yeah, it is. And I've heard that before, and I like to look at it in maybe a little bit of a different, I don't think that everything was wrong. It was just we only knew what we knew at that point in our life. So 3 years ago, you only knew how to handle things in the way that you did 3 years ago. And the thing that's, for me personally, I don't want that. I don't want to look back on 5 years from now and be the same. I want to continue to grow. I want to continue to evolve and continue to, stretch. And that does require you to think differently. Otherwise, you'd have the life that you think that you want right now because you'd be thinking in that way, because that is the first thing that starts with the behavior. Is it really comes from the way that you think.
Oh, without a doubt. As a man thinketh, so is he. That's one of my favorite lines from Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. Mm-hmm. And it's, well, I don't think that's true. I know you don't think that's true. There's this picture, those memes and everything, and it's Kermit with his iced tea, and he's like, I don't need to walk a mile in his shoes. I can see your complete show from all the way over here. I'm like...
That's funny.
So, all right. Well, you have sharing some great insights, and I just have one other question for you. This is the Wheel of Whatever.
All right, Wheel of Whatever.
And we're going to pretend that there's questions on it because they're getting glued on soon. And I know what I'm going to ask you. So it just landed on Deepak Chopra, Rhonda Brines, or Oprah. Who are you having dinner with and why?
I really love Oprah. But Deepak is one of my favorite teachers. I've read so much of his material and I have learned so much from him. Oh man. I think I'd still have to go with Oprah though.
For half a second there, I thought you were going to go, I don't like any of them. How about?
No, I was so stuck because you just said two of my most favorite people. Oprah,
and clearly that wasn't on the wheel. I tailored that for you based on the first half here.
Good. It was good. Oprah Oprah brings a lot of light to the planet, and she is such a soul giver, and she does soul work, and she hasn't always been that way. So to watch her share her experience and her journey and her life has been super fascinating to me because she's not the same person that she was when she was my age. She just isn't. She's a totally different human being at this point. And Deepak, I mean, man, he's Deepak.
Have you ever been to the center in California?
I haven't. I would love to go. I actually was looking at some of his events this year, and I have quite a lot going on this year, so I don't know if it'll happen, but I do plan to attend one of his events at some point in the next couple of years.
Excellent. You're just knocking it out of park with these. I'm going to give you a bonus round too. Marianne Williamson, Dr. Oz, Dr. Phil.
Marianne Williamson for sure. She's a light worker.
She,
Light work.
from her book Return to Love, Our Greatest Fear is one of my favorite. I just wish everyone would. It's not the lightness. It's not the darkness. It's the lightness, or the light inside of us.
Yeah.
She's one of my favorites too.
Yeah.
Okay. Sponsorships. We're going to thank the sponsor, and we're going to come back for the imperfect action round.
Invest automatically, save for later, and spend today. That's why I love Acorns. I used to think spare change didn't make a difference, and saving and investing was an old-fashioned manual process. It's not, and it's a game changer. If you're not leveraging compounding interest in your business and life, automatically, you're missing out. Acorns not only makes saving and investing easy and automatic, it makes it even more valuable by investing with diversified portfolios, spare change, extra cash, and rounding up everyday transactions. You can even set recurring monthly investments in the amount you desire. To make good great, there is also a debit card option that will continue to help you save and invest even further when you spend. Plus, no minimum balance and overdraft fees. Now, for the cherry on top. They have partnered with 250 plus companies and brands, and growing, with their Found Money program to invest back a percentage into your account with the everyday purchases when you shop. 2 of which you're probably listening to this right now through an Amazon or Apple device. Get started profiting from your everyday life and business simply and easily today at eainterviews.com/acorns. Once again, that's eainterviews.com/acorns.
And we are back with the imperfect action round. Mallory, are you ready to take imperfect action?
I am ready.
First question. What is the fastest path to the cash?
The fastest path to cash is figuring out how you can provide value to people in some form of service or offer or product, and continuing to get in front of as many people as you possibly can, offering that value and showing up in confidence that you truly believe in your work and your offer that you're providing to the world.
Excellent. Number 2, what is the biggest problem you see your prospects making and the fastest way they can fix it?
The biggest problem I see my prospects making is not addressing the beliefs and the barriers that are really keeping them blocked, because they don't actually know what the barriers are. And so they keep trying to outwork the problem by tactical and marketing approaches that don't end up solving anything. The quickest way to solve this is to hire somebody to help you do some mindset work.
Number 3, what is the best way to maximize customer lifetime value?
Love this question. The best way to maximize customer lifetime value is to continue to provide transformation and growth. And I don't mean just for coaches. I believe, and I have clients that work with people in real estate even, the more you can grow your clients, the more you can show them their own growth path, the longer they will stay with you, because they will keep seeing value and they will keep expanding while they're in your space.
Love it, love it, love it. What is a book or 2 or 3 up to 6 that has made a big impact on your life?
The first one would be The Big Leap, which I know is super, like a lot of people have read that and that's old school for them. But for someone that might be just starting on this path, I would recommend that. The second one would then be Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. Fantastic read. And then third, I love everything that Deepak writes. And I also really like Joe Dispenza. So both of them have been they write incredible work, and I've read the majority of both of their material.
Now you're going to renege on Marion and Oprah? They got books too.
I know. That's why I had a hard time answering that, because I've actually read and studied more of Deepak's stuff. But I think I would have more fun with Oprah and just enjoying being in her presence and in her energy.
Oh, she's known for presence.
Yeah, I was answering from just a little bit of a selfish, like, who would I have the most fun with? And I think it would have to be Oprah. Who would I learn the most from? Oh, see, I can't even answer that. That's not an honest question. That's black or white.
Well, I'm glad you're having fun with it now, and I was just teasing you. I know they're all great, but thank you for the book recommendations.
Yeah, I'm thinking about now, if I ended a dinner with Oprah or Deepak, who would I learn the most from? I don't even know how to answer that. It would be both.
I was just going to say, I got a solution to that. Have dinner with all of them.
Both of them, right?
Have it separate and then maybe organize a dinner, invite all 3 or 4.
There we go. It's a good solution.
Solutions for everything. I have thoroughly enjoyed this. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, Expert Authority World, we have another great episode here. I'll see you on tomorrow's. Have a great day, and God bless.
Why every business needs a book, including yours. Would you like to save 5+ hours with every prospect, generate more leads, and profit in your business now? Visit businessbookchecklist.com and learn how you can implement this in your business today. Spare change? How's that going to make a difference? I know that's what I thought before I started investing with Acorns. Throwing change in a jar is not very leverage and time-consuming, but what about all the transactions you don't use cash for? Like majority? Acorns not only invest your spare change automatically with roundups, it also lets you add a preset amount to each transaction regardless. It's pretty inspiring to see how quickly and easily you can end up with a pile of cash instead of a pile of receipts. Get started simply and easily today at eainterviews.com/acorns. Once again, that's eainterviews.com/acorns. Hey, thanks for listening to today's episode. I hope you got a lot out of it. I know I sure did. If you haven't done so already, I invite you to subscribe to the show. And also be sure to check out eainterviews.com for complete show notes, the full interview video experience, links to the resources we mentioned, and more. Have a blessed day, and I'll see you tomorrow.